Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Mayor, can you speak up a little bit? You're coming in.
Good morning.
Ooh,
Can you hear me now?
there.
Okay, right on. Yep. Good morning. How's Dededo this morning? I mean, we're in it, but how's it over where you're at?
It's okay. Traffic's starting to build up.
Mhm.
It is. That's one thing I noticed is in the morning, it would use during the COVID, it was just so peaceful. I was the only one on the road. You know, I could drive in the oncoming lane and just go crazy with it. But now, you're right. There's a lot of traffic, and
Yeah.
Hey, you guys had a special meeting yesterday. If you want to take us through the cliff notes.
Okay. Yeah. So what happened is our special guest yesterday for our special meeting were Carlotta Leon Guerrero, who's the governor's representative, and then we had the Attorney General, Leven Camacho, incidences where, we had a machete throw attack a couple of months ago, and then they get booked and released. They had a rap sheet prior to that. We had incidences at various villages, and when the people that were involved were arrested, of course the concerns with the mayors is that within 2 days they get released. And so of course the Attorney General addressed that. He says there are times when they make recommendations not to release because there's a long rap sheet of prior events for the arrest of these individuals. However, sometimes it's the court's decision. Other incidences where he says that he indicated that there were 5 people that were involved. However, it was only one that physically did all the damage and destruction or the crime. The others were bystanders. The bystanders were released. However, one individual was kept. Some of the mayors feel that everybody should have just been, kept in jail because of their involvement. So, of course, those things were addressed. The timeline, of course, COVID, where there was a shutdown for 2.5 months, and so even with that, he did indicate that there were still virtual hearings, between the court and the attorney, with the courts and the attorneys representing, and a lot of it has to do with the police reports. The police do the arrests, they indicate, and of course the rap sheets of each individuals are brought up. But that was a concern. The violent crimes have continued to happen.
Yeah. I want to be fair and say that I know that you said the AG blamed the judge, but also during the COVID, the AG was letting people go too. Just want to put that out there. Be fair.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it was a combination of things. It's not like he said, 5 people may get arrested, but it was only one person that did the crime, committed the crime. Yeah. The other 4 were bystanders. So you don't treat all of them as they were the ones that committed the crime.
Right. It was any part of the discussion, because this isn't like these issues have been happening. I mean, there were a whole series of community town hall meetings, Dededo, down south, and Mila.
Yep.
I mean, hello,
Yeah.
we've known about this.
I know.
Was there any discussion about, okay, this is what we're going to do?
Well, okay, so this is what happened. Carlotta came to the table because, of course, the negotiations with Compact Impact, the act, it's renewed in 2023. The discussions are happening. However, we are not at the table, and so there are several states and territories that have come together to put a plan together to present, of course, to our leadership in our representatives in Congress as well, because they do, and then the Department of Interior. The Department of Interior has a big part in this as well, because they are part of the administration, right?
Yeah.
And so she explained to us the different recommendations. The Compact Impact is that they come for, of course, we know education, employment, and health. And so a lot of times their health care is not provided. And that's where a lot of the funding is also needed, is because our health care, they're not paying. And it's not just them. There's a lot of people who are not covered with adequate health care coverage, and so we suffer when the system suffers when the payment doesn't come in, right, for services. Mm-hmm. So one of the plans, one of the recommendations by not just Guam, but Guam, Hawaii, Washington State, several states that are involved with a lot of migrants, right? Mm-hmm. Especially migrants, we're talking migrants from the FAS, right. Is to give them across the board Medicaid services, right? Medicaid coverage. And if they're not here on Guam, if they're in Saipan, wherever they go, that Medicaid coverage follows them. So they don't come to Guam just for health care. They can go to where family's at, right? It's all these things collectively. And then screening was another thing. Where do they get screened? It's not Guam's job when they get here to screen. The screening is done as part of the compact, is done on a federal level. So screening should be done at their point of departation, right? Wherever we're departing mm-hmm. from, whatever island. And then immigration, because immigration is that federal key, right? So Guam has no jurisdiction or Guam, Hawaii, has no jurisdiction to do the screening. It should be at the federal level at immigration when they come in.
Or else it's just going to be another thing that we do,
right.
that we send Uncle Sam the bill for, and he just laughs in our face.
Correct. So screening should be done at the federal level, meaning if they're going to depart from the place where they're coming from, screening should be done. And what are you going to go for? Who are you going to stay with? Are you registered for school? And then that's where immigration also, because immigration is the federal link for them to come in, right? And then secondly was, if they are in a housing program, if they're in a housing program here on Guam that they qualify for, and their family has moved, can they take that and go and make that move as well? So, things will follow them, not just here on Guam, but if to go with them to wherever state. A lot of them are going to the mainland. I believe there is Arkansas and
right.
and one other state because of employment. So
in the meat packing, I watched a story of, I think it was like Marshallese. There's like a whole bunch of FAS migrants working in some like meat
chicken factory,
right.
Yeah. Right. So, if they're qualified and they're in a system here, a lot of them don't want to leave because if I go somewhere else, I'm not going to have housing. Well, that housing benefit that they currently have, and it happens to others, not just the FAS. Some of our local people have chosen to move closer to where their children are at in the mainland. If they're under the system, because GURA is under HUD, it's a housing project where they can transfer their benefits from here and go to the next state and still just automatically slip into that that particular state or territory, wherever it's at. Right. So, have them, of course, automatic. If they're covered with, I always say, if they're covered with any kind, MIP, Medicaid, that kind of coverage, at least the service provider, whether it be GMH or the private clinics or public health, they will get some kind of payment, right?
Was there any discussion on the stray dog problem, Mayor?
Not at yesterday's meeting. Yesterday's meeting was specifically to address the issues.
Compact impact. Yeah, I want to go back to last year's State of the Island address, where, and because I'd interviewed the governor on this a couple times last year, was that we were trying to get a seat at the renegotiation table. But during the governor's State of the Island address last year, she said that the U.S. State Department made it clear that Guam will not have a seat at the negotiation table, which we know, and instead encouraged Guam's congressional representative to communicate recommendations. Leon Guerrero pledged to work with the congressman delegate on the One Guam approach to benefit the people and the territory. Well, we know how that worked out.
Well, we keep
Spoiler
trying.
alert.
You know, we build relationships, right? And so it's about the communication and being able to work together. So and it's also, one thing is that we also work with Department of Interior. Department of Interior knows the issues with the insular areas and FAS families.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They see it. They come here all the time, and so they also help us with pushing some of the issues. And because they're right up there in the administration, they help push the issues. And it's singing the same song, but when you sing it together, with Guam, Honolulu,
Right.
CNMI,
You get that harmony.
Arkansas, everybody singing the same song with the same issues,
Right.
and come a consensus that we're working, that all of us are impacted,
Right.
and we're
Mayor.
not asking for different things. We're all asking for the same thing.
Mayor, was there anybody from the FAS community or the FSM Consul General's office that attended that meeting? Because the FSM Consul General, we've spoken to her, many times about the programs and the outreach they've conducted to talk about these issues within their community and to help the youth. And we've done podcasts with Manetlu to help change the outlook on the FAS community.
Yeah.
Was anybody there
to
share their side?
Directly from the FAS Council General's office, but we did have Edmund, who was from Manetlu, and Edmund is a good partner, great partner. Edmund is Manetlu is a group of young people from the FAS communities, different islands, and they have formed Manetlu. Like we explained, is part of the used to be Big Brother Big Sister, and they have changed their name, and the group of members as part of the Manetlu group are mostly from the not all, mostly from the FAS islands and communities, and they do wonderful things. They don't just react; they actually come in and do community projects. We were sharing yesterday that they did projects with groups from all over the island, Hemlani, they're in Pacific Gardens, apartment areas, they're in Pagachao, and what they do is with Manetlu, they teach families how to work.
Right. No, I know what they do, and I think a lot of people in the community know what they do, but I'm just asking, were they invited to be a part of the conversation?
Well, Manetlu was there. Yes, they were invited, and so I guess, and it's another representative. Father Fran Hizo. He actually works with different FAS groups as well. So, and Father Fran is one of our parochial vicars at the Santa Barbara Church. So, he works closely with the community. So he was also there at the invitation of Carlotta.
Nice.
Well, good to hear, Mayor. Anything else? What about the abandoned vehicles, revolving recycling fund? Was there discussion on that?
Okay, well, we did drop something in the AG's ear as he was with us yesterday, that the memo of agreement between Guam EPA and the Mayor's Council is at his office, so he can push that through. So once that gets through and signed, reviewed, and then signed by his office, then it goes to the governor for her final signature. Then the MOA would come back, and that's when the funding can be transferred.
Mayor, before we let you go, we had a caller yesterday. I don't know if you heard one of your constituents of Cecilia Kittigwa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Issue with a dog, the neighbor's dog's not being tied up, and she gave us the whole history of this thing. She's called the cops. She's called Department of Agriculture. She also said she called you and you hung up on her. And I don't know about her. Could you just go over this situation with us? And is it common, these types of incidents in the village where somebody just doesn't want to tie up their dogs?
Yeah,
and it causes a lot of problems.
We present the leash law. We give it to the actual homeowner of the dog. And in this case, she lives over on one area. It's a small community. And she walks her children to and from school. And so her neighbor directly across from her, when I went over there a few months ago, their dogs actually just come into her driveway I took a photo of the dog coming into the driveway and sent it to agriculture and to Chelsea, and actually right away, well, within hours, she had her animal control people come. The animal control people team have actually given that neighbor 2 citations.
Wow.
I know that I spoke to the brother of the dog owner, and he indicated, and he's since moved out of that or is no longer at the house, but he did indicate that his sister, he ties the dogs, and then when his sister comes home, she lets them loose. The problem with those dogs is they have litter, and of course, mother dogs are very protective, but still, they have no business coming out of their properties. And so, I continue to, with animal control being down closed during COVID, we try to try to catch the dogs. When we go there, the dogs run. So, we to the back of the house or under their cars, and it's difficult. I know that animal control at one point, actually, or twice, set up the dog cage at the house. And what happened was the dogs were there. They got called that the dogs are caught. By the time they get there, the homeowner lets the dogs out again of the cage. So we've had a difficult time with this one particular house, and it's right in front of Cecilia's house.
It sounds very frustrating. And she said that did you get into a disagreement with her and hang up on her over this?
No, you know what? The power went out, and with the phone that I was using at the senior center died. So I tried calling her back, and then there was no answer. But I did not hang up on her.
Mayor, what about the adult daycare? I know we've talked to you about this. We just had a comment from Louise. Ask Mayor. Oh, it says, Buenos dias, Mayor Savares. When is the adult daycare to be reopened in Machechi?
Okay. Well, we're going to be working. We're meeting with our adult daycare and senior center teams next week to see what plans they have. As we know, everything is open at 25%, and I'm getting calls from even dementia families who don't live in Dededo, but the dementia center is up here in the Wissahick Road area. And so, of course, we need to come up with a plan. We can't have everybody there at the same time because of the social distancing. As we know, our seniors are very, very vulnerable to any infections and stuff. So each of the centers are developing a plan to bring the seniors back to, whether it be adult daycares, senior citizen centers, and dementia. But we'll have something towards the end of the month, hopefully the beginning of July. But I can't say yet when they're coming. Everything's been sanitized, but it's having a plan to come back. We can't have everybody, like I said, can't have everyone come back at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So it's going to be just like the schools. We have to probably alternate days. And I realize, because the families are calling me saying, Mayor, I need to go back to work.
No,
yeah.
Mayor, there's another comment here. Mayors have the power to cite the owner. We did see Mayor Jesse Alleg. I did a story on it. He had cited somebody for they had a bunch of dumping stuff on their property. Why haven't you cited this dog owner?
They were cited.
Oh.
They were cited. They've got 2 different citations
I see.
from agriculture.
But you have
What about you?
Why are we going to duplicate? You understand?
Yeah.
If I cite them and they've already received 2 citations, they're still dealing with those other 2 citations.
I see. What would you, can you want to speak to your village mayor? We'll just give you the floor about maybe tie up their dogs or whatever.
Okay, well, what we do is we have a process where we pass out leash law notices to everyone on the block when there's a concern, okay? And so it even gives animal control, and it tells them the responsibilities. On the backside, we actually have the leash law printed, and shares with them that if there's any damages or injuries or destruction, them as the owner will be responsible to pay for all those things. And, of course, we don't want it to come to that point, right?
Yeah.
But, it's telling them, would you rather tie your dog, keep them restrained in your properties, or be faced with these fines? So and people say, "Oh, but it's not my dog." Well, when the dog, you're feeding it. You throw food out because you know that the dog's going to eat it. It becomes your responsibility.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Wash your hands.
All right.
Okay.
All the time.
Okay, bye. 7:43. Hey, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we're going to talk COVID-19 because this is containing COVID. We'll get the medical director from Public Health, Dr. Jana Maglotnia.